This was the picture. It was really interesting with this picture. This was the picture they sent to us when we were in England, just before we were ready to come over, and said, "Look, this is us. This is who the people, you're going to be with." I said, "Oh, that's my that's my cousins." Yeah, that was my picture right there. I remember that picture. One of the things that I was made aware of, we had a house in England. There were some pictures of it, I think you saw it. My father worked, we were able to pay for the house, there was equity in the house. We had a decent life over there. In 1968, when we came over, pretty much they sold the house, and the money that they got from the sale of the house pretty much paid for our voyage over. And I remember them asking me, would you rather go over by ship or would you rather go by plane? And I said, well, let's take a vacation, because the price was the same whether or not we went over by boat or by plane. I figured, well, the plane is going to be 10 hours and we're done, whereas if we go by ship, we can enjoy the trip. And that's what we did. When we got here, we stayed at my uncle's house, my Uncle Peter, and he was very generous to us. And we stayed there for about 3 months. He housed and fed us, but we had given up, or my parents had given up pretty much all of their money, all of their possessions, and pretty much everything. My father was not a skilled worker, he was a laborer, so we couldn't afford to buy another house, we had no money. And basically we wound up living in an apartment from that point on, in a house that my uncles owned. And we lived there for about a year. And my father really did not like it. My mother did not like it. They did not like America. They really hated the situation. They thought it was going to be so great. And I remember there was a big thing going on in my family. They wanted to go back, but there was nothing to go back to, really. So, we persevered and we stayed here. My father worked, my mother worked, they saved some money, they borrowed money from my Uncle Peter, and she bought a 6-family house at that time, back in 1969 or 70. She bought the 6-family house on 11th Street. And my uncle said, even though you're buying this big house, you're still going to have to pay your own rent, and you're still going to have to maintain the house and do all these things. And it was a cold water flat building.
6 family.
A 6-family. So she took it upon herself to do that.
And non speak it.
She couldn't understand English at the time.
Spagnolo, non so
It was in a Spanish neighborhood. So she persevered. She was able to pay for the loan that she got to my Uncle Peter. She paid him back in a year or two, and he was surprised because he thought he never was going to see that money again. He goes, "Oh boy, you're going to become wealthy here in America because look how quickly you can make this money back." And she got it back, and she was able to pay for her house. And the lady who gave her the mortgage for the house was even surprised because she thought she was going to have to take the house back. But she persevered. She went to work. She paid her own rent to herself, to the house, so as if she were a tenant, and living there. And we just went to school. One of the reasons why she bought the house was the school right across the street. So she loved to keep an eye out on all her kids, right outside the door. And that's what we did.
Very nice people. In America, very rough. In England, pai piccati di gabimento, pai parvitinchi, si ho i bebè, pai, con pochi mele cazzaito con i bebè. Era very nice in England. People just quiet. In America, very rough. No, in England
It was more civilized in England than it was in America.